We go to Zambia now for another anti-corruption story, where Anti-Corruption Commission there announced yesterday that the country's health minister, Chitalu Chilufya, has been arrested on suspicion of corruption. It's said that Chilufya was charged with 4 counts of possession of property reasonably suspected of being the proceeds of crime. He's expected to appear before the Lusaka Magistrates Court on the 9th of July. To tell us a little bit more now, we're joined via Zoom by the University of Zambia's political scientist, Mr. Lee Habasonda. Thanks so much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Just how significant is this arrest? One doesn't often hear of a senior minister in cabinet across the continent being arrested for corruption, even if it does exist.
Well, I think it is, in a way, a significant arrest, although it's not the first time we've had a minister arraigned before the courts of law. Clearly, one wants to read into a number of things about the arrest of the minister. And these could be both internal and external factors leading to the arrest of the minister. First, in terms of external factors, the president of Zambia yesterday was holding a meeting with the High Commission from the UK, the new High Commissioner. And so one would speculate that maybe there was some pressure from that end to have the minister arrested, because these allegations about the minister being involved in corruption have been there before yesterday. But suddenly we saw that the Anti-Corruption Commission moved in and arrested the minister. So one would like to think that it is not a coincidence that at a time the British High Commission to Zambia is meeting the president of Zambia, then the minister is being arrested. So, yeah, we've had a minister before that was arrested, and the matter has died because the court said, well, this guy is free, he didn't commit an offense. But in the court of public opinion, I think people still have a perception that corruption does take place at a cabinet level.
All right, so what about
domestically?
The internal factors?
Internal factors domestically would seem to suggest that this has to do with political struggles within the ruling Patriotic Front. As you appreciate, the Patriot Front is currently trying to push a bill in Parliament to repeal a number of pieces of legislation. And that bill is commonly called here as Bill 10. And one of the things that bill seeks to repeal is to actually remove a section in the Constitution that empowers aggrieved parties to file in and stop a person from being nominated who has lodged in a nomination but appeal against that nomination within 21 days. As it were in Zambia, there is a debate that President Lungu may not actually qualify to run for presidency in the next year's election because the Constitution says a person that has been elected twice may not be eligible. So fearing that some people may actually go to court and the political party, that's a ruling political party, may not have a candidate, and Dr. Chilufya seems to be the one that has really been selling himself, although in a subtle way, to the public. It would appear that a section of his own colleagues internally feel that he is getting ahead of them, and therefore they've decided that they must provide some kind of evidence that he is involved in malpractices in government. So it would appear that there is a section within the ruling party that feel that the minister is a threat to their ambitions because, yes, President Lungu insists he will run, but people in the spectating and within the party believe that somebody could go to court, and with Bill 10 at Parliament reaching a stalemate, the situation is clearly becoming a bit desperate, and therefore we will see, you read a power struggle within. And if President Lungu wants to continue with the agenda to be the candidate in 2021, then it would suggest that probably Dr. Chitalu Chilufya may not be the candidate that he is supporting. So clearly, therefore, behind this arrest, which many Zambians probably don't see it as very serious, it is really about elections in 2021 to gauge whether or not the PF can survive the 2021 election. I think it is got to do with that from my own reading. It's not much about fighting corruption, because we've had these incidences of ministers going to being followed up by ACC, but these cases have gone nowhere. So clearly here it could be that people would like to get Chitalu Chilufya a bad name, and therefore not have him to be a possible successor of Mr. Lungu should he not succeed to run for office next year.
And I would imagine that it's almost difficult to believe that a senior cabinet minister could get arrested without the president's consent.
Precisely. This is the issue here. In the past, presidents have said, no, I haven't been consulted, you have arrested my minister, and so on. But this time, we've not heard any comment from the head of state. In a recent address, he had said, these institutions are independent and I don't interfere, and sometimes I don't even have the power to do so. So clearly, I think that, as I am trying to suggest, I think that this has to do with the permission of the head of state, who is clearly focusing on what will happen towards 2021.
Has Dr. Chilufya defended himself? Has he denied these allegations publicly as yet?
Not yet, but he should be appearing before the courts sometime on the 9th of July. And that is when we will hear his side of the story.
What do we know about him? I mean, he was a deputy minister and then got promoted to minister. Does he have a long political pedigree?
Not quite, but he's been one of the most vibrant politicians within the Patriotic Front. I think one of the well-educated members of the cabinet, but also he has had the privilege that all the heads of states that he has served under have given him the leeway to get down to the people. He's been having good coverage from national media, and obviously with the COVID-19 pandemic, he has been running announcements as Minister of Health, and some people have actually said he's been overshadowing the president himself. So clearly, he seems to be a rising star, and this stardom probably is what people are finding difficult to accept.
Is this a new tactic that we might see in the future? Because as you say, it's not the first time that rumors or people believe that certain ministers could be involved in some kind of corruption. Could we see opponents or people who threaten a certain political agenda coming to the same fate?
Well, clearly, yes. I think that in Zambia, that is part of the political paraphernalia, that the law is used to harass opponents, whether internally or externally. It is something that has been used by past regimes, and the regimes that we have now have also used the law to try and get their opponents out of the way.
How will the opposition parties use this if they can?
Well, obviously, the opposition political parties don't really have faith in the fact that the case will go anywhere because they feel that there is selective justice in the way law is applied. Right now, a young man was arrested for speaking or for libel against some senior ruling party officials, and he's been jailed for the last 1 week. He has not been given any bail, any bond, despite the offense being bondable. But the minister was arrested yesterday, and within hours, he was released on bond. So people are saying, well, the youth who was expressing himself, he may have offended people or defamed some people, but when you weigh the two offenses, the minister's offense is heavier, and therefore they should release the young man, because when you weigh the two cases, it would appear the young man's case is really a small case. And so they feel that the law is used clearly to punish those against the system, when in fact those within the system may be arrested, but really for public show.
How much do we know about the case against Dr. Chilufya? How many properties are we talking about? What kind of amounts might be involved?
Well, I think that if we have to follow what we read in the media, the amounts of money involved are quite substantive. It is a big case. If it is proved against him, I think it is something that really will dent not only his name, but the name of the government of the Republic of Zambia.
All right. So, when you look at all of this and the shifting of the sands that appears to be taking place, what does it say about President Lungu's hold on power at the moment?
Well, I think that President Lungu appears to be a weak president from an outside view, but he does seem to understand how to deal with his opponent. And I think that his opponents must better learn that he is quite lethal, but in a manner that when you see him, when you talk to him, you wouldn't think he is actually able to do some certain things that he does to his opponents. So he is focusing on retaining power, and in my view, is quite determined that he retains these powers, because as I was saying, the constitutional bill number 10, which is a bone of contention at the moment, seems to want to perpetuate some of the things that will disadvantage the opposition. For example, the new bill that's being proposed is saying we need a coalition government, which looks quite strange for a political system like ours in Zambia, whereby if you don't meet the threshold of 50% plus one, you must be given authority, if you are in the lead, to negotiate with any party to meet that threshold. So all these maneuvers clearly suggest that the Patriotic Front is thinking about ways to stay in power.